as you can see, I took the skirt off as close to the piping as possible. I'm not wasting my time removing this because at the moment she has no other use for the top, but at a later date that could be easily removed, and I don't think it will affect the piping. I think that was attached and then the skirt attached to it because this is all finished off nicely. Not sure if it's going to pick up, but there is a mark here and another one there. So I cannot use this panel in the makeup of the cushions. When you are upcycling something, always check to see that there aren't any stains, and if there are stains you sometimes can work around it. I could, if I needed more fabric, take it from here as the last part of the stain seems to be there, but in this case it's not worth it. Having checked to make sure there's no stains on this particular panel, turn it over and have a look to see where the weave goes, which is here. Whoever cut these out did a really bad job. They're not straight. So I'm going to cut along the weave all the way to the end of this panel. From the new bottom, I'm going to measure up 16 inches and cut along here. There's 16. And again, I'm going to cut all the way to the end of this panel. I don't have to measure it. I can see where the weave is. If you wanted to measure it off, you could. Again, I've put the end of my ruler here and I'm going to measure across to 26 inches to start off with. Fold it over, make sure the raw edges are even here and the bottom, and I'm going to cut along the fold. So I've got two pieces. So the good edge can go up there. Pop this on the end there like that, and I'm going to measure off 25.5 all the way down. The side that I'm cutting had been attached to the next panel on the skirt, and I literally just cut up, so it wasn't particularly straight, and I'll do the same on the second piece and cut off the extra fabric. Underneath here I have a folded up towel, and the velvet I'm going to place upside down like that. Now my iron is on super hot and I'm going to steam the velvet going sideways so that I'm not going up or down with the grain. Steam it and move it. If you don't keep moving it, you're going to end up with an iron mark steamed onto the front, and you don't want that. Because I can't get the whole piece on there, turn it, and again, one side to the other, all the way across, and a second time. Flip it over, and there we have a nice piece of velvet, no creases in it at all. I'm pleased with that. I'm going to just start this piping here. I've cut it 1.5 inches wide. It is on the bias. You could do it on the warp or the weft thread. Usually with velvet, I do it on the bias, especially if it's a plain velvet, because then I don't have any ridging. This is a crushed velvet, so it doesn't really matter too much. And I'm going to just sew this down. I'm just showing you this to start off with. I always start on the right hand side of the cushion as I'm looking at it. The pile is going down, and all I'm going to do is attach this here. I got rather carried away and ended up doing all of them without showing you how to do this part. So I'm going to pop that under here like this and sew to the corner. And as I get to the corner, I'm just going to cut in like that at a 45-degree angle, there, up slightly and down slightly. So 3 little clips. I'm going to sew into the corner, giving myself about 1/2 inch seam allowance. Lift the foot up with the needle down, turn it and pull it all into position. Now you sometimes need to re-lift the foot up, but I always pull the thick fabric all the way back and then let it go into position. It seems to work better, and then on round. So that's how you put the piping in. Now I'm not sure if you can see this at this angle, but I can see the striations of colour going through. So when I'm looking top down, it's very pink, but if I'm looking at the side or up, I can see varying colours. I've had to check each piece that I'm putting on to make sure that the bluish colour here isn't too obvious. Let's do the join. I'm going to undo this a little bit so I can work with it. This is already cut in the direction I'd like to join them in. Fold that over like that and come down about 1 inch on this side. So I've got seam allowance. Fold that over like that at the point where I want it and cut. That should give me about 1 inch overlap. If not, it's not a huge problem as long as I know where the middle is, which is about there. Lay that on here, scooch it under the foot a bit, make sure that the seam allowance is where I want it. Unfortunately, this fabric is very slippery. Turn that down to one of the smallest stitches. Always check once you've put your seam in that it actually fits, which that seems to. I'm going to bring that down to about here and cut it, and I cut it at an angle. Hold that, and then I'm going to push this one up and also cut it at an angle so it lays over the top. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to do the job. I find if I do that, then if there is a gap between the two pieces, it's not as obvious as if I had cut them straight up and down and there was a gap. Because they cross over like that, there's a little bit of a filler. Pop this under here and start sewing from where I had finished off, like that. Lengthen the stitch. Now I do my joins like this because I like to make sure that everything's tightly in place. Make sure the seam is open so you spread the bulk. Then I'm going to make sure that that piece of cording is on top of the other or tucked behind it. Make sure it's right in there, and I'm going to get as close as I can to that joint. Then sew the piping onto the cushion. I prefer to do that so I know everything's in place. This is down, and put the back on and make sure that that is also down. Slide that underneath, make sure that the edges are together there. Bring that down slightly. Pop that underneath and sew along the piping 2 or 3 inches and reverse. Go to the other end of the base, line up the outside edge like that, go back a few inches like that, pop it underneath. I'm going to go forward and back and then forward all the way to the end. I'm going to line my zip up. It starts to open there, so I'm going to go back 1/2 inch, slide all of that under there like that and go forward and back. I'm going to try to keep the edge of the zip on the edge here. It's very slippery fabric, so I'm just going to do the best I can. The box on here is just to keep the weight of the cushion up, not so it drags down. Put the needle down, pick the foot up and slide the slider all the way back. Foot down, keep all of these teeth away from the needle and work my way to the other end. When you get to the other end, just reverse a few stitches and then forward and finish. Flip the cushion over, line up the zip and the bottom edge of the back of the cushion like that. Pop the foot down and again forward and reverse. Now something I've noticed is the zip seems to be a bit shy on the length, so I'm going to pull the zip across the base here. Just folding that in so it runs along the side here like that. Just a little bit of tautness. Realign, make sure that's folded into there like that. A little bit of tautness as I work my way to the other end. Get close to the other end, just make sure that it looks okay. I still think I need to pull this zip against the fabric just a little bit more. Sometimes that happens. I think it's the way the zip is rolled onto the cob. Just seems to stretch one side of the teeth compared to the other. Now I have closed that up to there, so let's get that into place. Needle down, foot up, and I'm going to just open the zip like that. It's easier to do it that way, and then slide the slider down there. Foot down, realign everything, pull the zip just a little bit and then sew into place, and it should go in quite nicely. When I get to the end, forward and back. I'm going to start at the bottom, slide all of that under there like that, forward and back, just because I always do, into the corner here. I'm going to make sure my needle is level with the piping seam here. Pick the foot right up and twist it into place like that, lower it, line up the top of the cushion like that to make sure that all of this is in place, and a little bit of tautness and sew it into position. Just make sure the underside, if you've got a thick fabric, is flat because sometimes it rolls up. Now I'm just going to come in the top here. I'm pushing the fabric in to where the foot is. Again, make sure that the needle is level with the seam at the top here, and then twist it into position. Now along the top I'm going to divide it into 3, so I'm going to measure here, pull it and then hold it there. A little bit of tautness so it all goes in. Again, measure it off, find my third, and sew it in. As I come into the bottom here, line up that, foot up, twist, and I'm just going to go forward and back along here. And it's finished. I'm going to open the zip up down and push the slide back. I have here a pillow for the bed. It was $4.88 from Walmart plus tax. I prefer to use this than a designer pillow. They are cheaper, and certainly cheaper than if I made custom inserts. So I'm just going to push that in and close it up. So you don't have to buy specific pillows, but I don't believe in wasting people's money. The last thing I'm going to do is just cut off any long strands and check the piping. Thank you for joining me on this project. They've turned out really pretty. My friend has a fantastic house, and she has a formal living room and a formal dining room. This is going in the formal living room. In the centre of her living room, she has this wonderful marble coffee table with salmony pink and grey going through it. She's got 4 two-seater sofas that also go around, they're curved. So although this isn't quite the right pink, I think in different lights this will look pink and this will look salmony. It will look quite in keeping. We decided to do the crushed velvet because the crushed velvet is on 2 of her dining chairs in the next room. And also this will pick out the dark grey charcoaly look in the table. So I think all in all this will help pull everything together. If you'd like to see more from me, please subscribe, hit the bell button, and a few thumbs up would be absolutely brilliant. And in the meantime, take care, see you later, ciao.